Hello guys, Dieter here from Beer Idiots. Finally, I managed to get somebody for you guys. They are into the business of beer applications. I met them at 2017 already at the Zitos Beer Festival in Belgium, and they launched their app 2 weeks later. Welcome, Jan Paulsen. How are you doing?
Hey Dieter, I'm fine. Thanks for having us on the show. Uh,
Yeah, pleasure is all
it's
mine. Huh?
nice weather outside. Yeah, yeah.
Tell a little bit, a short introduction. Beerhive is the name of the application. It's a mobile
Yeah.
app. Why do we need another mobile app? And what is Beerhive?
Well, that's a most favorite question. That's always the first question we get when people approach us. So, what's the difference typically with an untapped or a rate beer? Well, actually, this idea came from frustration using these apps because these apps they are typically very rating oriented. Basically, you give points, 4 stars, 5 stars, 8 on 10, and then these apps they calculate averages, so you get a very good view on what people on average like, but we thought that taste is something very personal, and they don't bring any added value in giving you information on your personal taste, and that's how I came up with this idea to present taste in a pretty visual way, and actually it was my for my studies as zytoloog, beer sommelier in 2016. And basically, I presented this to a jury, and they really liked this idea because in the jury there were some people from Duvel Moordgat as well, and they said, "Well, this is brilliant. This is something which does not exist because it was more than of an kind of intellectual exercise I was doing." But they say, "Well, there's really some potential on this." And then, well, the same week I was invited by the people of Duvel Moordgat. We had a chat, and they convinced me that there was really some potential in this idea. So the same week, I gave a phone call to some ex-colleagues, and a guy, Wim de Bruiker, who studied cytology with me as well. And together with two IT'ers, Koen van Leuvenhagen and Steven Palmers, well, basically we developed this, and we had then a prototype we launched at the Leuven Innovation Beer Festival, and yeah, we got some really good feedback. And so now we have almost 4 years later, we have 5,000 users on our platform. We have more than almost 8,000 beers, of which like more than 2,000 we have a statistically relevant profile. And this may be interesting to explain what does this mean, a statistically relevant profile, because our profiles are, we call ourselves a community tasting platform.
Yes.
So tasters they taste beer, and they can profile beer in a visual way in our app, and then basically the algorithm is gonna calculate a smart average of this profile. Again, in a very visual way. We take into account the expert level of these tasters. How do we do this? We started with a small group of people of which we knew that they were pretty good tasters. And then basically what we do, if new tasters join the community, in a structural way, we start assessing them. How good are they as a taster? And after a while, if you have entered 10, 20, 30 beers, the algorithm will say, well, this is a potential good taster as well because he is deviating not a lot from the reference group. And basically, the system is making itself smarter and smarter. So the averages that you see in our platform, they are based on on a lot of tasters, but it takes into account your ability to taste well. Um, and then you get basically averages, smart averages, and that's a profile of a beer. And if you have the profile of a beer, because we describe a beer in 120 tasting points, I would call it. Is a beer sweet? How sweet is it? What aromas do you taste? Do you taste banana? Do you taste cinnamon?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
based on these 120 parameters, what we're gonna do is we're gonna calculate basically the distance between all these points,
Yes.
and that gives you similarity. So theoretically, we have a kind of mathematical algorithm that calculates the similarity of beers based on these 120 parameters.
Do you
Um,
also, let's say, taste A and taste B of the ingredients are very similar? You group them also together, and according to the percentage on ingredient one, ingredient two, they are closer towards each other?
no, our aroma model is a very binary model. So it's very you taste banana or you don't. And we don't say
Mm-hmm.
you taste a lot of banana. And we don't say neither that banana is, for instance, close to mango or something. It's a very
Yeah.
binary model. Yeah. For other parameters, we have a scaling. For instance, sweet. There we do a scaling. Is it a little bit sweet or is it's a
Yeah.
lot sweet? Is it hoppy a little bit or is it a lot hoppy? Is it do you taste malts a little bit or so for some we have scalings and for some we have just binaries.
Yeah.
Body is also one where we have a scaling for something has a medium body, high body, low body. Uh, and it's a model that it's constantly evolving. Now and then we're getting a lot of feedback from users that they are missing some parameters, and if it makes sense, then we add them to the model as well.
Okay.
Last year we got some requests to add rabarber. I don't know what it is in English actually, rabarber.
Yes.
Don't know many beers with rabarber taste neither, but there were some questions of tasters that find that rabarber was missing as an aroma.
Okay, cool.
Um, but it's very interesting, and it's also very interesting how the model works. We were on Zitos also 2 year, where that's the year after. There was a lady that came over to our booth, and she basically said, "Well, what beer do you recommend? What's the best beer that's here on Zitos?" I said, "Well, I have a taste, but you have a personal taste. And what do you like?" And so she gave us a list of 5 beers that she liked, and we run it through a model. And basically, there was one common denominator in what she liked, and that was coriander. A very simple taste to recognize.
Yeah.
So we had the profiles of most of the beers on the Zitos festival as well. So I said, well, try this beer, this beer, this beer. So typically beers with a very strong coriander taste. And yeah, a few hours later she came and she gave us a hug and she said, "How did you know this?" I said, "Well, this it was not so difficult actually." So again,
Yeah.
but to me it's a good illustration about that taste is something very personal, and I think that's the main differentiator we have with other beer apps.
Yeah, I recognized also in your app when I saw it in 2017, the screenshots of it at your stand at the Stills Beer Festival. It reminds me the, how do you say it in English, the rose of taste.
Yeah,
A
it's
friend of
by
mine
that we
had
have.
that on paper in a printed book, and then you guys came up with, yeah, we have it in an app, and I thought, oh, that's genius. You can have now digitally your notes. Is that the scope where you started with? Like you want to have a digital notebook as a beer taster, and then it evolved?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we were in our cytology course in Leuven at Sintra, so we always get like you get 5 beers to taste, and you get this
Yeah,
big
yeah.
Excel sheet. You had to fill it up. And what I at a certain moment I saw a student was saying, "Well, I recognize lychee in this," and then the teacher would say, "Hey, that's the first time that somebody recognized lychee, but I need to admit that I recognize lychee as well, yeah." And then after the course, often these sheets they went up into the dustbin, so people were throwing this away. And then I thought,
Yeah,
bloody hell, this
uh,
insight is getting lost. Why don't we just, it's a collective brain. Why can't we just make like a digital version of this Excel sheet? And then yeah, then we have a collective brain. Everybody puts in his insights, and then an algorithm calculates what on average is recognized, and then it makes sense. But then I had a big challenge to get a big Excel sheet on a very small screen. Yeah, and so I did a bit of thinking, and I find, yeah, I have a very good book on how nature is inspiring innovation. And in this book, I read an article that honeycombs are mathematically the most condensed way to do something on a limited space. And that's how the idea came. Like, if I can put like an image of
Yeah.
every taste parameter, and I do this in a honeycomb, which goes
Ah,
open and closes. So you make categories, and if you click on it, it goes open, and if you click on it again, it closes. Then I can put quite a lot of parameters on a very small space, being a smartphone screen. So I made a prototype, and then also the idea of Beerhive as a name came because a beehive is a bijenest,
yeah.
and with a small difference you had a beehive. So it came from the design of getting lots of information on a small screen. I came to the honeycombs, and then the name came, and then it was like a
Okay.
puzzle that fitted together. Um, and so yes, absolutely. So it came from the frustration that we had to do beer tasting on paper, which
Yeah.
take a lot of space, and that insights were lost. Uh, so I thought that okay, let's make kind of collective brain of this, and do this in a community, and that's how it came, like Beerhive community tasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit about, yeah, the minimal viable product, the prototyping? Was it done already digital, or was it like I take a piece of paper, a carton plate, I draw something, and somebody tests it, or it already was
No,
digital?
um, we 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 used a platform called Envision Apps. Envision app.
Yes.
It's a platform where basically graphical interfaces and you can make them clickable. So
Mm-hmm.
what we did some prototyping on Envision. We gave it to some people and to see how on what were they clicking and what was not clear. And based on that, we modified our design. And then we developed our first prototype natively on Android, which at that moment seemed to be a good decision, but which was after all actually a very bad decision, because we had a prototype, we had a first version ready on the Leuven Innovation Beer Festival,
Yeah.
and then half of the people came to us and said, yeah, but I have an iPhone and I want this as well. So 50% of the population we had to say, yeah, sorry, but it only runs on Android.
Yeah. I think I remember
And
that talk.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then we said, bloody hell, this is not good. Let's redo this. And then Steven Palmer, who's also an app developer teacher at PXL in Hasselt, uh, he said, well, let's do this on Ionic. So
Okay.
it's like HTML based, and it basically generates an iOS, Android, and even a web version. You can make it a responsive web application as well. So we refactored everything into Ionic, and up till today, we're still very happy with this choice.
Yeah, that was one of
It's
my next questions. That progressive web apps are coming up, but you in the beginning you already made the choice that we're gonna do it with a web framework.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because the challenge of the we had was it's just a nightmare developing
yeah,
with a small team. If you have lots of means and you have big teams and you have lots of money, then you can work really natively in all
yes,
these
yes, yes.
operating systems. But it's like a write once, run everywhere kind of attitude we need to take very fast, and I think it was a good decision.
Tell
Um,
us a bit about architecture. You mentioned you used Ionic. Is it you also split it from the beginning directly into a cloud version of it? You work with
that's
front end applications, backends, mid tier layer.
yeah,
It's everything is in
yeah.
modules with calls.
Yeah, again, I'm not the specialist. I leave this up to Koen van Leuvenhagen, our architect. But
Yeah.
but we deliberately have chosen pretty fast to go in on Amazon Web Services.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Just for the simple reason that it's very cheap in the beginning.
Yeah. Yes.
It's
Yeah.
it's a very tricky model. It's a bit they give you a
Yeah.
line of cocaine, and then once you're hooked up, then you start paying. And so
Yeah.
basically, they let you design your whole architecture on their free stuff, and you get really hooked up because it's really powerful. And
Yeah.
then suddenly your traffic starts increasing, and then the first bill comes, and your second bill is already larger, and you see it like every month it goes up. On the other hand, it's well, I mean, as a small startup, we didn't have lots of financial means, or we didn't want to invest too much in it, and it's really cheap to start in that way. So
Yeah.
our whole architecture today is based on Amazon, which is the big challenge on Amazon is to find the trees in the forest. So you have to do something. You have quite a lots of frameworks. So and that was good because in the first year we pitched with KBC started,
Oh
and
yeah, in Leuven,
that
yes.
yeah that they yeah we were one of the lucky ones that they believed in.
Yeah.
So we were a bit sponsored by them during a whole year. And one of the good things about KBC is you also get some RWS perks, so you get some free credits, and you get also some advice, RWS advice. So we had some guys helping us to select which framework was best with what we were doing, because you have quite uh, to deal with databases, to deal with if you want to run algorithms. So that helped us out as well. But today, we're still very pleased with the choice to go to RES because of its scalability. But then again, uh, now and then you really have to think, okay, what can we optimize to control the costs, because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, in
a
in
very
some
tricky
parts
model
you don't want to
to
have it always on your architecture. You want some flexibility of hot and cold storage and stuff like that. Is that something where you also needed to refactor some parts of your code in order to lower down costs?
Yeah, absolutely. One we saw that, for instance, what we do is we have a kind of algorithm that calculates the similarity between the beers. Huh? Just explain to you, like we describe every beer in 120 something parameters, and then we start comparing all them, calculating all these distances between all these parameters, and
Yeah,
basically, if the smallest distance is the most similar one, and this algorithm was constantly running. So in processing
yeah,
power, that certainly we saw that was raising our costs, and we said, well, guys, what if we do this every X minutes? And that was already a tremendous money saver. So you really need to understand how this money machine works, and how you can optimize your architecture to save costs. Again, if you're a big company and you don't care maybe, but even I heard that an Uber who has developed all his full architecture on Amazon as well is also coming back on certain designs because of costs are going tremendously high with the
yeah.
volumes and traffics there.
The bigger your company is, the bigger the cost becomes. So you
Yeah,
always have to
yeah,
see to lower down costs.
yeah.
Um,
But
let's talk a
but
bit
again,
about the
for,
data in there. So I assume you guys have a lot of user inputted data,
mhm,
algorithms that are running. So I
mhm,
assumed you're running a SQL for master data, something like that, but also a non-SQL MongoDB or an Elasticsearch in order,
mhm,
or a graphic search in order to calculate distances and algorithms of similarity. How is a database
yeah.
choice?
Yeah, honestly, know that we're running a uh, Dynamo search, I think it is. But again,
Hmm.
I leave this up to Kuntu if you want. We can elaborate on that in a next session. But I don't know these details actually.
Yeah, okay, no
I
problem.
developed the concept
Yeah,
and did the user interface, and currently it's mainly, yeah, we're looking for, yeah, business models to make this work, because at the end we're on a mission, and we want to bring the beer knowledge to a higher level. But obviously these servers and stuff, it costs money, and we're not there for the money, but we need to cover our costs in a way, and that's why
yeah.
we now also exploring the terrain to find a business model that we can be sustainable in what we do. Uh,
Yeah,
Um,
if I can pick in on that one. So first, when I saw your application, when I saw the concept, I was like, great. This is the concept of your own tasting notes that finally is
mhm,
digital. What was then? You already had phase one of getting it money wise okay. In your head, we need to evolve towards brewers, towards customers, towards restaurants, or that came later. It was let's first make an app for
Yeah,
the
it's
people, and then let's see how we monetize it.
yeah, it's definitely in that order. We didn't have when we started this. We didn't have a business model, and the business model, and that's the interesting part because I've been talking to some entrepreneurial guys as well who said, yeah, that's normal and that's good. The business model will come. And in the
Yeah,
beginning, we were just doing this for fun, and we got some reactions. But then obviously the cost came, and we said, okay, we need to
yeah.
find a business model to make this sustainable. And we had some ideas. Yeah, advertising. No, let's not go there. We don't want advertising in our app. And then we thought, yeah, maybe the data is worth something, and we anonymize
Yeah.
everything, so we do not reveal anything. So we just say like the average taste is this. So we're not selling individual data. In all transparency, we had some chats with some very big breweries who were very interested in our data, but then we thought, hey guys, this is selling our soul. This is our asset. This why if they are willing to pay for this, then we must find a way to monetize this ourselves. And actually, the first good idea on monetizing this again came on Zitos. And so a recommendation that I would give everybody who's starting up something is really go and start talking with your customers. So we were standing there on the booth in Zitos, and suddenly there was a Scottish guy who came to me. He had a pub in Scotland, a big pub, which I think he had 200 or 300 Belgian beers on the menu. And
Yes.
he said, "Do you know what my biggest challenge is?" I said, "No, staff." He says, "My staff, my staff don't know shit about beer, and I run a beer pub with like almost 1,000 beers, and people come to my place to get an experience. And my staff, every time I need to hire new staff, I have to train them,
The
and even
training
then,
time. Yeah.
and even then, it's very difficult because it's a lot of beers, and it's you know, and then the idea came, and I said, bloody hell, if we know this, and we have the way we our taxonomy, and we can translate this in for instance, four simple questions. Like a first question could be, what beer do you like? And then if the guy says, well, I like a Duvel, our app will say, well, based on the offer that we have in the bar here, we don't have a Duvel, but this beer resembles mathematically a lot, so I recommend you this beer. And if the customer says, oh, cool, that's good, and if he likes it, then he has the feeling that the employee, even though he doesn't know anything about beer, has given him an experience. And then we thought, this is interesting. So that was the track where we said this should just, if you could make like kind of beer advisors for beer venues, and a venue can be a beer pub, but it can be a beer shop as well, because they have the same challenge. There's some really big beer shops around that have 800,000 beers, but all due respect for the personnel, it's almost impossible to give really good advice. And now and then I do mystery shopping in some of these beers. There are some there are excellent beer shops with excellent owners who know their stuff. But there are also big beer shops with a very nice offering. And if you ask for advice, they can't get any further than blonde or
Yeah.
brown. That's it. But
True.
that's not the experience you should be giving to customers who come to a beer shop with 1,000 beers. And again, there we saw a little bit of an opportunity to monetize this, and that's basically what we have been doing in the last year. Again, it takes a while because we have full-time jobs and we all do this in the weekends and the evenings. But we're ready. So this week we are launching a new a new offering basically, and it's called Beerhive Advisor. And basically, what you do is you go to our portal, you upload your own logo, opening hours, whatever you want, and then you just go into a user-friendly screen, and you just select your beers, and then the thing generates. It's not an application; it's a responsive website,
Yeah.
which is a kind of a kind of beer advisor, uh, and it can be used both by personnel in a shop or by end users. And while we hope to that we can start making a little bit of money in this, just to be sustainable in a dream that we have, that we one day we have all the beers in the world perfectly profiled by a community in it, because that's still one of the hiccups we have. We have a pretty good database today on Belgian beers. But obviously we have quite a lot of foreign users now as well who start entering beers as well, because you can add beers in our platform as well, but who are missing. We don't have the power that we have in data on Belgian beers. We don't have yet for foreign beers. So that's a big challenge if you want to go international with this.
Yeah. How do you look towards that? My geeky mind says, all right, you need a database of beers, what there is. All right, you register with an API on your conculegas competitors. You scrape data, and you have already a big start of data to start. Not for
Yeah.
scores, but just for name completion, autocomplete, and stuff like that. Do you work with data sets you buy, or everything
Um,
is own data?
no, we had some data sets we bought as well. Scraping you can't do. But we had some starting data, but don't underestimate the complexity of going international. Also something taste. Taste is an international given. Giving.
Yeah, yeah,
If you ask an American guy if a beer is hoppy, he will say no, this is not hoppy. You give the same beer to a Belgian guy, is this hoppy? He will say yeah, this is hoppy, and everything depends on your reference. So if you want to internationalize this for instance, in
yeah,
America, you
yeah.
need American experts who are tasting, which is your base point to have your
Yes,
algorithms work. Yeah.
yes.
And you cannot just do this in Belgium and then extrapolate this on different countries. So that's
Yeah,
the real complexity of this. But we definitely have ambitions to internationalize this. Uh, Belgium is a lovely play yard. You have three languages. You have a very vast offering of beautiful beers. But and if we have this right, and we have our basically our monetization model works, then we definitely need to scale this internationally. And then we also have already ideas how we want to do it. Again, we would put this in a kind of franchise concept where you have, for instance, you have Danish guys who are the Beerhive Danish guys, and they have links to the beer clubs locally with beer
yeah,
experts, and then the algorithms start working. But that's very important. That's something that Wim de Bruiker in our team has spent quite a lot of time and effort as well, is to make links with Belgian beer clubs, to get good tasters on the
yeah,
platform, because that defines the quality of your data. You need a few really good tasters, and we put in quite a lot of beers so that you the algorithm can start calculating. So if you want to go international, we are looking for guys or beer clubs who say, hey, this is cool, and we want to be the Beerhive Denmark or the Beerhive Netherlands or the Beerhive UK. So if people are watching this, please contact us, I would say.
yeah. Email them below. Yeah, you
Email
mentioned
below.
internationalization. When you first make an MVP and then you refactor it, how much did you already were like, all right, we have our panel of tasters, and once we grow with this, we need to refactor a lot, or is it how much do you do in advance of that, of the technical
Um,
side? Time zones, timestamps, building it now so that you know that other countries and continents can come in, and that it's not a huge refactor doing on your main
uh,
code branch.
honestly, it's grown very organically, yeah. And now and then you have to stop yourself and say, guys, what are we doing here? Is this the right way to go? Because in the meantime, we're a year further on, and we've learned stuff. So yeah, if you would start again, maybe we would have done things differently. But but to answer your question, quite, there, this moment, again, it's talking with customers that we realize that maybe some of our designs are not optimal. For instance, the tasting came up. We were on on a beer festival talking to an American guy that your model sucks. He says this is not hoppy, and then we realized for us Belgians, this is really hard. Like if you're only drinking IPAs all your life, then this is not a hoppy beer. And then, okay,
Yeah,
okay, how do we model this? Is our no, it's not
yeah,
ready. Okay, let's think about this. So it's often by this design thinking principles of talking to customers, asking feedback. Most important question is always why. I say why do you don't think it's hoppy, and then things you get some insights where you say shit, we didn't thought about that. So yeah.
yeah,
So the
yeah.
answer is no. I don't think we've seen everything.
Yeah, yeah, I can feel what you mean with this is a very cultural, personal, and country-based data and application. You cannot, yeah, for an American it's different for somebody from England, so you really need to connect back always to your local base, which in your case are the tasters and the beer clubs, in order to get a point of reference where you are operating. So yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing
And
where I think
hindsight,
on is what with people who are international travelers. Like you come from England, you go to Belgium. How will the algorithm calculate that? The country where you signed up is maybe not a country where you check in the most.
uh,
Maybe you're a resident, so you have a lot of parameters. That's really challenging.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's a big challenge indeed. And we didn't crack that nut yet.
Yeah,
But then again, the more users we get on our platform, the more we will need relevant data. We will need enough American, UK users to really see whether the difference is really that big or not. We don't know.
yeah.
Um,
Tell me a bit. You already mentioned you're doing this in your spare time. Eh? You have a day job where you are, correct me if I'm wrong, ITer, marketeer, manager, and also you were interim CEO once.
yeah.
How do you find programmers, marketing people, soft marketing, soft technical people? How do you find them, get them together to work in a project like this voluntarily?
Yeah, it's again, it's passion. We all have very passionate people. Wim, Koen, and Steve, they were all believing in this project. We were all also stepping in a mindset like we work in big companies with quite a lot of governance
Yeah, yeah,
and we where you need to you color in the lines always, and we thought
yes.
that let's do something crazy, and I want to play with AWS. One said let's say okay, let's do this on AWS, and we the way we collaborate is all on freeware. We use Slack, we use the way everything is on Google Drive, we share, so there was a kind of intrinsic motivation of we want to do something else, something cool, something startup like, but then this start growing, and I don't want to put it nicer than it is. It's often a burden. I mean, you've been working all week, and then on Saturday you start again, uh, and now and then you have successes, and
Yeah,
yeah, you go to a festival and you get good feedback, and that's why you do it. But to answer your question, how do we find good ideas? So we started with a base, but often we have students. We work often with people. Today, Simon is working with us, who is a student at the KU Leuven as well, and we typically pick typical last year's graduate that study computer science, but who are doing a supplementary year of management or something,
yeah,
typical
yeah,
extra years. And these guys, they want to make a little bit of money. They want to, but important as well, we give them first experience and
yeah,
how's it like working together on a project like this and using RES and using all the cool stuff. So
yeah.
we already found two really good students who brought forward this project tremendously. They often also have more time than we do. So it was when we started working with these students that we saw some really big leaps being taken.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
again, it's a good sense of purpose. I think we help some. If these guys go to the labor markets, they can pull forward some first experience, which is
Yeah.
very good. I think for themselves as well. So
Yeah, of course.
yeah,
It's always experience hands on in a fun environment is always the dream when you are just from the school. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
So about well, very briefly about tooling, is it like you use Slack? Is it like you have a Trello board with some mini
Yeah,
stories and then who commits
yes.
to it and
We worked a while with Trello, but then after a while we jumped to Jira.
yeah.
So now we use Jira to distribute the work. So who's working on what? Slack is our communication platform. Google Docs is our where we do our Excel sheet, but it's not Excel sheet, it's Google Sheets and our where we store most of our stuff to share also with customers. What else? Yeah, Visio, I've mentioned
Yeah.
InVision, sorry, to do prototyping. Uh, just looking at my more oh, very interesting as well. We're using I'm a marketeer myself. We use marketing automation as well. So basically, we have if you register yourself on our website, there's an automatic flow that sends emails and start
Okay.
sending newsletters. If somebody is coming back on our website, you get points, and then we see this is a potential lead. So, and for this we use a framework called Agile CRM. So it's a kind of marketing automation platform.
Okay.
We use all the marketing-wise, the usual stuff, Google Ads, analytics. Buffer we use for social media. Very
Yeah.
interesting tool as well to basically what I do on Saturday morning. I read all my beer blogs, and then the interesting one I put aside, and then every day I Buffer posts something, and it looks if that we are a very big company with a social media manager, but that's really neat. I think it's
Yeah.
free tools that can professionalize small startups like ourselves, and most of these tools are for free. Uh,
Yeah.
so
Indeed.
and then again, if you grow, then it's fair as well that they ask a bit of money of it.
Yeah. You mentioned already points, etc. If I think to one of your yeah competitors, not really, but if you go to rate beer and to and so then gamification, how do you look to that? There
Yeah,
is also a way of
it's very
gamification with badges and with scores
yeah,
and oh the hype train. Is that something you?
absolutely. It's absolutely. It's a very good question. It's our top number one next functionality, and we don't
Okay.
want to go for badges. We want to go for the real stuff. So concretely, what we plan to do is that people that are using our platform actively, that put in quite a lot of ratings, that have good ratings, that add beers that we don't have in our database, they will be able to save points, and these points you will be able to exchange in goodies, and goodies will be stuff that so that's also why we are talking to breweries. Some breweries they say, yeah, we have some a new beer we want to launch, and yeah, can you find us good tasters? So typically these beers then will go to the people that have gained points. So we wanted to have a kind of exchange that people can get free beer, get scoops, get beers that have not been released yet, maybe get a T-shirt now and then. So that's a bit the idea that we have because we're not naive as well. It's good that you have a place where you can store your tastings, but if you want to create really traction on this, you have to give something back to the end user. And also, we're going to be very transparent. If we're going to make any money out of this data, it's first to basically to pay our servers and stuff, but we're not in this to make real become rich on this. And then it goes back to the community as well. It's a bit of a Robin Hood principle. And for instance, I really like the concept that, for instance, David Castis is doing today with He's gonna, I don't know whether you heard about it. He's gonna plan a platform which is called Cake. He wants to disrupt the Belgian banks, and basically he's very transparent. He says basically I'm selling your data to other parties, the less whoever, yeah. But I give what I take from this, I give back to you as an end customer. So I'm very transparent that I use your data, and I really love this concept because if we find a way to monetize this and then giving this something back in return to the end users who basically contribute to this data, I think it's a fair model. Uh, and I think a point system can be a first step, a first simple step. That actions within the app generate points, and these points you can exchange for something. You get a
But
free
you always
ticket
want
to.
to exchange for benefits and physical goods more than giving a cool token or a badge or
Uh,
whatever.
No, we're still brainstorming on this. People are a bit competitive. You could, for instance, say you make a ranking, or so. We've also thought about a ranking where you'd say this is the number one best taster in Belgium or something. It's almost like a title. Yeah, but it's a bit of a twilight zone. You have to be careful as well.
Yeah.
You have to be you're still dealing with a soft drug, let's call it like that, and you should not get hooked up because of the points that you're gaining on Beerhive.
Yeah.
A legal guy warned us for this. Be careful with this. That you should not stimulate people to drink too much because of a very interesting gamification system you're putting in place.
Yeah.
So,
And
but we're still brainstorming on how we will materialize this. But it's our number one next functionality in the app.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
first thought you were avoiding that because you want to have the app more staying purely functional for the user instead of gamification where you have to say a name untapped where
Mhm.
people are checking in little sips without drinking one full beer of it and then like oh
Uh,
I'm gonna rate it and whatever. So gamification is also a very big downside in my opinion
yeah,
of quality of
absolutely.
data.
Yeah, absolutely. A second, because basically what we're thinking to make this more a living thing. A second thing, functionality, what we're currently considering, and I think the COVID-19 crisis has accelerated this. Last few weeks, you got quite a lot of questions on people that wanted to organize private tastings. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, virtually, yeah. So everybody is staying home
Yeah.
and opening the same bottle, and then they say, can we use Beerhive? I say, yeah, you can, but they want to see
A
what the
group.
average of the group is. So
Yeah.
you make private groups. So you invite friends, 10 friends, and tonight we're having this X beer, and then at the end of the evening, you jointly look at your group averages and you say, oh, you thought it was this hoppy. For me, it was less hoppy, and you have interesting discussions on it. So that's definitely also a feature that we are considering now, which might be interesting as well to create some traction on the platform. And then you could use it if, I don't know, a pub that has its own private group, a beer club that has its private group, a tasting you do in the evening just with 10 friends. You do it from home, for instance. That's a very interesting functionality as well.
Yeah, because it's also very scalable. Also, yeah, you have to watch out what we said in the beginning. That taste is something very cultural and local, but
Mhm.
indeed, it's very cool to do a tasting, let's say, within 3 countries at the same time and to see what the
Yeah,
difference are and what the data comes out. In my head,
absolutely.
a year ago, I was also like, oh, so we can do with our beer club a private tasting, and then we have the
Mhm.
data, and then we can see what everybody was. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
very
have
cool.
we have one brewery that addressed us, and they said, well, if we launch a new beer, what we do today is on Friday afternoons we have test panels coming in, so they're paying
Yeah,
people to come in
yeah.
and to taste. Yeah, they say, well, it's very interesting this platform because theoretically we could, send the beers all over the world,
Hmm.
well sent, in a way that they get dark and cool. But then we could start benchmarking and do this on a much larger scale using your application, and then see what comes out of the data.
Yeah,
So then we thought, oh, that's an interesting business model as well. So that's also something we're
yeah,
looking at to do it like use it as a kind of blind tasting. I
yeah,
was I was surprised to which extent that the big breweries are doing this. So we had talks with both Stella Artois, InBev, and with the guys from Heineken as well. And they're doing this on a large scale with test panels already. So that could be an interesting route as well for monetization. Again, not selling the
yeah.
data, but to organize private test panels.
Yeah, yeah, indeed, indeed. Yeah, what I also thought in the beginning when I heard your the concept of Beerhive in 2017 until a year later, I was thinking, do these guys have, let's say, a admin or control panel website based where a brewer can log in and see all the
Yeah.
data about his beer, and I can do a time frame from here until here. In that region my beer has this profile, in that region my beer has this profile, and I can download or analyze my data as a brewer so that I know, oh, this beer, maybe here it's too much this, oh, there I get this feedback. Is it like
Yes,
that also?
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. We do have a brewer's portal, it's called, and a brewer he logs in, and if he can, for instance, if he launches a new beer, he can add the beer with all the characteristics, ABU, color, bitterness. He can make his own profile as well. So how does he? It also shows up in the app. So if you go to the group profile at the bottom, you have a drop-down list box, and it says group or it says brewer. And if it says the brewer, that's the profile that the brewer has given.
Yeah,
And he also gets he can see what basically the group, how they are analyzing it, what the difference is between himself and the community. uh, Today it doesn't have too much granularity yet, but it has some basic features to basically do what you say. um, what's really funny is obviously there are very big breweries who have labos and who do this very professionally. We also have brewers who admit that they are very good brewers, but they are very bad tasters and they don't know how to make an own
yeah,
profile, which is okay. And then they come to us and they say, can your community make a profile for me?
oh
And we
yeah.
have some brewers, and that's also an interesting possible business. We have some brewers we're working together with the contract brewer Anders, who is printing some of the profiles on their bottles. So the
Oh,
spider
okay.
charts,
Yeah,
you can see it on our website. We've put some photos on it. They're printing this on our website, which is a very interesting concept as well. So basically, that's where digital becomes physical.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you're standing in a beer shop and you see 300 beers. What do I pick? And if the profile which you have in your app is printed on the backside of the beer label, it will give you a lot of information. I think that's very wine has very good descriptions on labels. Beer too often has very poor descriptions.
yeah,
It
yeah.
has the ingredients. Some brewers do it really well, I think, but on average, there's quite some work to do there.
Yeah. And Jan,
Um,
does the Beerhive app also support scanning a barcode of a bottle and showing the taste pattern?
no, not yet. But you should be on
Mm,
our ID. But no, we have it on our ID list as well.
yeah,
But again, it's actually really easy to implement as well. There are
yeah, it's
uh,
key
open
value.
open open source frameworks.
Yeah,
But it's definitely something. It's a bit like Vivino is doing with
yeah,
for wine.
yeah.
Um, That's one of the questions we got quite a lot as well. Is So we get quite a lot. Two questions we always get. Not being sexist, but most of the ladies they ask, is there beer pairing in there as well? So food pairing.
Oh, okay.
That's that's a question we very often get. Can you add food pairing? So
Yeah.
since since both Wim and myself are zytologists, a big part of the study is on food pairing. So we know the principles really well, and actually it's not so difficult to include this in our. So that's something we're looking at as well to include food pairing. Um, wait, what was your initial question? And then
Yeah, scanning the barcode and
yeah,
then
the
get the
barcodes.
profile.
Yeah, and then the second question we get often is, can we use this model on wine and on other drinks? So, so people ask, yeah, it's an interesting concept, Beerhive, but can't we just do the same for wine? It has another taxonomy. It even has another vocabulary. Wine is a bit more chic. In wine, you say that something has terroir. In beer, you say it's wet goat. So you need to adopt the model a bit. But yeah, and in fact, you could use this on different kinds of drinks. You could do this as well. So those are two questions we often get: food pairing and can you? Why don't you guys do this for wine? But we're all beer
Yeah,
lovers,
but
so
because there is a wine app, a vino app that I know where you can already scan barcodes in your regular
that's
supermarket and look it up.
that's that's Vivino. But again, it gives a pretty good description. But again, it's very textual and it's very rating
Yeah,
based. Again, I think, and that's the power of beer. It's very visual. If once you understand the model, it's in one side you see exactly what the taste of a beer is. Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah, also a question with, let's say, technical a little bit more APIs. Do you
yeah.
offer people to download their data, link data to, let's say, Brewer, Untapped, or other platforms? Are there any other platforms where you can interact with data exchange?
Um, we are today working on an API to open it up for beer shops. So we
Okay.
get questions. Yeah, so we get questions of beer shops that have typical standard platforms using Shopify or WooCommerce or
Yes.
What is it, Magenta,
Yeah,
and
Magenta.
they have a very powerful interface. That's typical a bol.com like experience where you have your product with a nice bottle, and to the left you have typical filters, but these filters today are very poor. They very yeah, you can slide on price, you can do blonde, brown, color, but often that's it. And then you typically have the beer styles, and we don't believe in beer styles, by the way.
Yeah, I saw
Uh,
that on the site.
and that's it. And we have some beer shops to say, well, we think that the taxonomy that you guys are using is much more interesting, much richer for beer specifically. So we got a request from a big beer shop to open up some of our data and algorithms to an API, and that's basically what we're doing as well. So again, it's not a business model we thought of. It came up like a few months ago, and again, to come back to your initial question, the business model is still
Comes
work in
always later
progress.
when you have the value for the
Yeah,
customer.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, and I think to get back on the beer shops shortly, it's very handy if somebody sees a beer on their shop. Oh, the recommended other three beers
Mhm.
in the button below. If that's calculated based on taste profiles instead of working with keywords or whatever,
No, no,
that's
it's
gold. Eh?
it's really the profile. But then again, it's based on the offer in the shop. So often
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
the distance is still pretty far away, and so we put a limit. But what's really interesting as well is in our solution we also if we have for instance, somebody goes to a shop and he says, I want a duvelgroen, yeah, but the shop doesn't have a duvelgroen. The app will sell, we don't have a duvelgroen, but these three beers we do have.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because it pushes upselling and it pushes people to discover stuff they don't know yet. Uh, and the same goes for beer bars. Let's say you have a favorite beer and you go to the bartender and you ask for the beer and the guy says, yeah, we don't have this, but we have something that's very similar. And you have a wow experience, then yeah, next time you go back to this beer pub. because you had an experience. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah,
indeed.
so the similarity engine is a very, I think a very powerful thing that we have here. So yeah.
Other question. Um, Growing towards your first 1,000 active users, how was that? Did you use any advertisement or was that going to beer festivals with a banner
Beer
and
fest.
shaking hands?
Yep. Beer festivals. I think on the first day of LEBF, we had 400 downloads, I think. So it's
Okay.
beer festivals is definitely one. Um, Again, you can do paid advertising, and then you will see it, but I'm not convinced. I'm a stronger believer of content marketing. Basically, what you are doing as well with your blog post, it's you, you gradually start winning souls. So we have an interesting follower base on Instagram. We have a good well, it's growing based on Facebook, and basically what we do, that's what I do on Saturday mornings. I follow the beer blogs, see what's interesting news, and then put some comments on it and share it and grow up. And that's two new users, and that's the way we gradually use. And it's often you would be surprised that for like a few weeks ago we had a Japanese guy on our Instagram who was really wild about this idea. Asian people, they really like these graphs and stuff. If you've seen advertising of Mercedes in Japan, there's always statistics next to it. So it's very close to the way that they put, and he really loved this. And then suddenly I saw on the downloads, it's like a big peak in downloads in Japan. It's like one guy
Yeah.
was probably is part of a beer club or something, but don't underestimate the word of mouth, even on digital. So with these small efforts, yeah, we're winning souls. So are we spending a lot of money on advertising? No, not yet. But then again, uh, maybe if we
Organic
need to
growth.
go international, it's organic. You can burn a lot of money on Google advertising, goes really fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, when I talked to you guys, I think a bit later after 2017, you said, "Yeah, we're close talking with Duvel Mortia to launch this also in America, USA." And I thought, yeah,
Yeah.
I really believe in this concept of Beerhive, the app, the data, the value. And I thought, yeah, this will already be launched in America now and would be allez, taken off there with a separate name maybe or something. How is that
Uh,
the scaling from Belgium towards another country? Is that on hold or slower or?
no, no. We're still talking to, it's not Duvel anymore, but Duvel opened definitely. I'm very grateful to what Duvel has done. They opened quite a lot of doors, and we still talk with them now and then. Uh, Basically, we had an agreement that we now first finish the beer advisor functionality, which is ready now. But there are some talks as well with an American potential partner who is based in New York, who is very interested in the concept as well, and was also in beer data.
Ah,
Um, but no, so it's definitely not a route that is dead yet. But it's so why first we thought, yeah, let's go to the States as soon as possible.
yeah,
But we were pretty well advised by the guys from KBC started, and the way you need to pitch this. And if you pitch in America, the best thing you do is that you can prove that you have some first revenue coming in already.
yeah.
Then
Money talks there.
lots of doors open up. That's the first question you get. How many customers do you have already? And is
Yeah,
somebody willing to pay for this? So we thought, okay, let's do this in the right order. Let's first prove that this beer advisor thing will work. Basically, what we're doing now. And if this works, then yeah, then we think we might try this and go to the States.
yeah.
It's
So
an
you
interesting
first chose
market.
to monetize it here and make it profitable in Belgium, and then
Uh,
knocking on international doors.
Well, we're not saying profitable. I mean, what's profitable? If you calculate the hours that you invested in this, this is not
Yeah,
profitable. Let's be honest about this. But but at least you have to prove that you can make that it can generate revenue, and then it's much easier to go and pitch and to find maybe some investors. But then again, it's also something we haven't figured out yet. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Some very, very nice last word, Jan Passen. Um, thanks a lot for this talk. I think there
Yeah.
will come another talk also about this next time.
Yeah. No, it was a pleasure. I watched most of you. It's really good again as well. I see your follower base is also gradually growing. So you're doing a good job there.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Um,
I would say I'll see you on a beer festival. It will not be this
yeah,
summer,
I wanted to
huh?
say the same. uh,
It will be maybe a virtual one once we have our group tasting functionality.
yes, indeed, indeed, indeed. Keep me in the loop for that one.
Yeah.
All right. Jan, thanks a lot and see
Great.
you
My
hopefully
pleasure.
very soon next time.
Okay, stay safe.
See
Okay,
you.
bye. Okay, bye.
Yep, we're